So we'll kick off. So thank you everyone for taking the time to tune in. We do have Dan Flomen here today. He's the executive, I hope I get this right, executive vice president of sales for Empire Communities. So he's gonna, kind of fill us in a little bit on what Empire's been doing out there, what their predictions are for sales and things like that. So I'm gonna pass it over to you, and I'm gonna mute my dog in the background.
No problem. Okay, well, thank you for having me come on to this morning. I've been fortunate to quite a few of these Zooms, but it's mostly with real estate agents and some very concerned purchasers out there. I've done Zooms from anywhere from about 5 or 6 people to the biggest one I did, which was about 750 brokers and their clients. There's obviously concern out in the market as to what is happening. So if you know Empire, which I've been associated with for 15 years, I've been in the business for 29 years. This is where, Joshua, you actually do know my age, but I've done a lot in this industry. I've worn many hats, including being a builder myself. And then obviously I transitioned purely into the sales game about 15 years ago. I opened up a company that specialized in the sales of pre-construction homes and condos. And my main thrust has been in the southwest of Ontario. I do some stuff in downtown Toronto, but I do a lot in southwest, which Brantford is one of our biggest, it's our flagship. Empire's been in Brantford for 22 years, I think. And it's been a key component in our sales, and will always be our main flagship as we continue to grow. We have another 2,000 lots, I think, left to go in our overall game plan of our project there. But I can tell you that when COVID hit, one of the things that Empire was a little bit forward thinking on is that we had already prepped a lot of our stuff to prepare to be virtual in a lot of things that we were doing. We had seen over the last year a number of agents and a number of people say, listen, we're moving to Brantford, but we're not living in Brantford. We're coming from another city, and how can we get the information? So we had prepped ourselves with doing a lot of virtual stuff in advance. I know a lot of builders scrambled, they closed the sales offices, and then all of a sudden it was, what the hell do we do? We weren't where we are today when COVID hit. I will tell you the one good thing that came out of COVID for our industry in total is that we advanced the technology that was going to hit everybody in 5 years. It was inevitable, but basically 5 years was compressed into 1 month. Everybody scrambled, everybody got themselves up and running, and a lot of builders succeeded very, very well. I know we want to talk about Empire specifically, but one of the things that, if you do have any questions for me, is that I do speak to my counterparts. I'm in a very funny industry where all of my counterparts are also my friends in the industry. Many, many developers, I'd say probably about 80% of all of the development in Ontario, the people that have my position, I know on a very personal level. And that's helped us out immensely because we were able to talk and figure out the best ways to deal with the market and to deal with the buyers and to ensure that the customer experience, which is paramount, regardless what other people may say, the customer experience is paramount with whatever we do, because the customer experience is the referral to get us future business. So let's talk about Empire for a moment. And I'm about to launch in Brantford the next phase. And people go, are you crazy? What are you doing? Why are you launching in this time? And I go, well, I can also tell you that in Caledonia, Ontario, not too far, it's door to door from my Winfield, which is the name of the project in Brantford, from the Winfield sales office to my Avalon in Caledonia sales office is 31 minutes. Well, we opened that site. We opened a new phase 2.5 weeks ago. And if you're all ready to sit down, we sold 70 houses in the last 2 weeks. And people go, how did you do that? Like, give us like what you did right and what did you do wrong? And we did things right and we did things wrong. The first thing that we came to the conclusion on is that we are going to run and attempt to do the first completely virtual sales program that we've ever done. And what do I mean by that is, even though we are an essential service under the definition, and we could have appointments in the sales office on a one-on-one basis, we made a conscious decision to say, we're not going to. We had a sales office completely just built, brand new sales office. We had taken the old one, moved it over, retrofitted, spent 6 months redoing our sales center. We built beautiful model homes. We staged them with an amazing interior designer. And then we consciously decided that the best course we had for Avalon was to go 100% virtual. It made my staff feel way better. And it also made the customers feel like they didn't have to go into a sales office because some of them were nervous. So the process was a little bit different here. You know, in the usual thing, you know, you have your sales event, you invite your people in. There may or may not be a lineup. They come in, you know, they stand around a table, they look at floor plans, they speak to agents. You've all been there, you all know that the typical way of selling. We did this completely different. First, we sent out numerous emails. Now, emails are easy. You know, it's like tossing a grenade in a room and just assuming it's going to explode. Bad analogy, I know. But, you know, the thing is that you send an email out and you go, you know, I hope they read it. Okay, so we send some regular traditional emails out. And that was to get people to opt back in to see are you really still interested knowing that this is happening, that if you watch CNN, the world is ending, and if you watch Fox, there's nothing wrong in the world. So, you know, we didn't know who we were reaching out to. So we then decided to go with video emails, which is amazing. BombBomb is a system, and BombBomb allowed my sales manager. We had 600 people register since COVID to the site. So we send out what is called a BombBomb video email, where my manager, speaking the way I'm speaking to you, talks about the site. So when you open it up, and it doesn't, by the way, come in a 4 meg file, it's a condensed file. You're going to open it up. It's from my sales manager for the project. And then she gets to talk to you one-on-one. So you're actually seeing the face of the sales manager, as opposed to just reading a line saying, you know, or if you're interested and here's the stuff. So that was stage one. Stage two was, are you still interested in coming in? You know, opt back in. Then what we did is, for those people that we really knew were interested, we picked up the phone. I know it sounds crazy, but actually talked to the people that seemed interested. Again, you know, we came off of 10 or 12 years where, you know, you put a sign on a property, you had a lineup, you really didn't have to get to know the people. With my company and with the way we do sales, and you know, again, based on how long I've been in the business, we spend a lot of time training our salespeople. And I'm not the only one. I don't want you to think it's purely Empire. We spend a lot of time training our salespeople how to talk to real people, that it's not just an investor play, that it's not about what is the cash flow and the capital gain. It's what is the right house for you? How are you going to live in this house? This is the key things. So we talked to those people and we said, would you be interested in some video conferencing? Again, people on this call, we take it for granted, Zoom and whatnot, but you know, there are people that are nervous and we didn't want them to feel that they had to be on camera. Some people are very self-conscious about these things. So we then sent another email out, which was a BombBomb, another video email with the salesperson who you now either just received an email from, or who you are going to receive an email from in case we had to send the BombBomb first. So now you're connecting the face, the voice, the smile of the salesperson with the potential buyer. And that was key, because now we then send them all of the information. Again, different builders have different methodologies. We send them the price list, the floor plans, the site map. If they wanted to see the agreement of purchase and sale, we have nothing to hide. You know, going back, you know, we are 27 years in this business. We are one of the largest developers of low rise in Ontario. Our agreement is black and white. There's no hidden clauses in it. It is what it is. So if some people wanted to see the agreement in advance, they could see the agreement in advance. We also had what are called Matterports done. If you don't know what that is, it's basically a virtual walkthrough on steroids of our model homes. And that was a very big thing. So instead of the real estate board ways of doing it, where, you know, if they send out their photographer and you see a room and they have a circular camera that just goes around and you see whatever's in that room, here you can walk through the house from the front door, see the nooks, crannies, go up the stairs, be the person walking through the house, and really get a sense as to what's happening with how we build. Keeping in mind that one of the things that we do at Empire, we tend to, in our smaller homes, try to make them as standard as possible. We may have some nice furniture in them, but we want the purchasers, especially first-time buyers, to really understand what they're getting. This was all key. Then we went on to the video conferencing with the buyers, with the potential buyers, and I would say one in a blue moon said they didn't want to do some form of video conferencing. And those ones, we picked up the phone and we called them as however they wanted to call. Some people, ironically, don't even have the apparatus to do a video call. We all take for granted everybody's got a phone, or like a smartphone or a tablet or a computer. But some people, I don't know, they still have a landline. They use mail with a postage stamp on it. It's kind of cool, but so we had some people where we had a lot of phone calling and reaching out in that regard. But again, that was 1 out of every 1,000, let's say. So, I mean, on a project like Avalon, which we just did, it was maybe 2 or 3 people in total. Now, keep in mind, everything I'm telling you about Avalon is what we're about to do in Brantford with our site in Winfield. The occasional, we did everything from Zoom, FaceTime, Whereby, which is a great system, by the way, if you don't know that one, MS Teams, and even, dare I say, Snap Video. It depended on what the person wanted. And if the person had a different method, whether it was Skype, we generally don't use Skype, but if somebody said Skype, we went on Skype. We asked the buyer, or the potential buyer in this case, how did they want to communicate with us? So all of this led to a much slower way of selling, but a much better experience for the buyer. And again, my salespeople, the admins, they felt very comfortable because people didn't know what was happening. What did COVID mean? Like, you've got 2 camps of even agents, people that think, I don't want to be in an office, and other people that are like, well, why can't we be open tomorrow? And as you know, with the government putting a restriction on any form of open houses, even though we are essential service, we are all licensed real estate agents working for my brokerage. And so technically, even though in one regard I could have the sales office open, in another regard, it was technically against the Ontario Real Estate Association to be open in that regard, being totally open, doors open. We have had the occasional person ask if they can come into the sales office, not at Avalon, but at some of my other places. And we have prepared, those sales offices for that occasion with plexiglass borders. We've done no pets allowed. We've asked, unless it's an urgent matter, to not bring any kids into the sales offices. And the no kids thing, obviously, will be a little flexible if you're a single parent and you've got 2 small kids. We've heard the stories of Costco not letting some of these in in the States and whatnot. We've let them in, but we've asked that they stay close to the parent at hand. What we don't want is, we didn't want a bunch of people running around touching everything in the sales office, because when that person leaves, we disinfect the sales office. And again, that is also to let the next person know that they can come in feeling safe, and also allow for my staff to feel a lot more comfortable as to what's happening with everything. The goal keeps going back to the fact that the most important thing is a customer experience maintained at the ultimate thing. So we're never going to go back to the way that we used to do sales. And when I say that is, we're always going to have this component of virtual selling moving forward, because we have found that it has been an excellent way of selling, both on the builder side of the table and also for the real estate agents who do cooperate. We do cooperate with a lot of real estate agents. It's probably about half of all of our sales, and they've really enjoyed it. When it comes time to signing a deals, we all have DocuSign, Authentisign, all of that paperwork, and we've been doing it through that. And so let's say somebody wants to buy a unit, or a house, I should say in this case, a lot. We'll block that lot. We'll prepare the paperwork. We will DocuSign it to the person. We will give them 24 hours to sign it and get it back. So again, we've taken away that massive rush where everybody was slapping dots on tables, and it felt like chaos. And, you had people competing for a lot. And you know what? We've taken all of that out of the equation now. I'm not going to say it's not going to come back later, because there's always going to be a builder out there, or we may find ourselves in a situation in 2 and 3 years from now where that comes back because we have to. But we really, really like this. Our cancellation rate due to this methodology is almost 0. versus cancellation rates in anarchies of openings being upwards of 40 and 50%, because people buy a property and they take it home and they didn't, it wasn't necessarily the house they wanted or whatever they wanted. Because remember, by the time they get the documents sent to them, we've already said, this is the house you're getting, or this is the house you wanted and this is the house you're getting. I shouldn't say this is the house you're getting. This is the house you wanted and this is the house you're getting. And here's the paperwork. The cancellations we're getting today have generally to do with finance. They don't have to do with a change of mind because of the slower process in getting to the finish line. I know you wanted me to talk a little bit, by the way, please stop me, Rose or Zach, because I ramble a lot. You know, we're talking about the future, and I'm going to tell you right now, let's divide the future into two sections: velocity of sales, volume of sales, and price of homes moving forward. And it is critical to, when you're talking about pricing of homes, to not believe for 1 second that prices are going to drop. It's impossible. Land is not going down. It's not. There's some land transactions that have occurred, and the anomaly may be a little bit lower here than it could have. But construction, unless you tell me something totally different, is going to be going up. Builders, I know this may shock the people on this call, will not build for a loss. I know. When I tell this to real estate agents, they go, "What are you talking about? You can't drop your prices 15%." I go, 15% is the total profit margin on homes. I'm not building a house for zero. I'm not taking a chance. I've got the warranty program. I got to keep going back. You know, you're crazy. It's absolutely critical that we as an industry, everybody here on this call, understand that property values of pre-construction homes have to increase. They cannot decrease. The only places where you may see some decreases is where a builder may have been overcharging pre-COVID based on them pricing them almost at future valuations. Like if the market is $500,000 for a home, we all know there were builders that put those homes out for $550 because of the anarchy that was out there. The house was worth $500, but they were playing the hype, the 10% hype factor. So maybe now we're back to 500, which is probably where we should have always been. And at 500, the builder was making a profit. At 550, builder was making an extra 10% profit. Listen, we're here to make profits. We're not a nonprofit industry. I'm definitely a culprit at wanting to make a profit, because a profit means that we can keep building and we can keep running. You know, Empire, we've got land in Southwest Ontario for probably the next 25 plus years, maybe 30 years. I have for sure on the low end 20,000 more building lots in southern Southwest Ontario that we haven't even started construction on. I think in Brantford, I still have another 2,000, and we love Brantford. We love that whole area. We could buy more land. We'll keep buying land in Brantford. It's been a godsend to us. It's you know, everybody dealing with the city, dealing with the construction trades. Everything has been a godsend over the last 20 plus years in Brantford. And I think we built a very, very nice community, and it keeps getting better and better. And we do keep changing our floor plans, which is a key component to longevity in any site, that you don't look like, if you've ever been to Vegas and you go into these subdivisions and every house looks exactly the same. And even if you're drunk and you come home right now, you probably can walk into the wrong house, except if you don't look at the address that you've walked into. So when it comes to price increases, you have to assume price escalations moving forward. They can't not. The other thing is volume of sales. Now, this is the catchy one. And I'm going to say that the initial volume of sales for the balance of this year is going to be probably about 80% of what we projected for the balance of this year. And the reason I bring that up is there's a long-term study that said there's a correlation between the velocity of sales, the volume of absorption of sales, and the Toronto Stock Exchange. I know it sounds silly. We're Brantford, it's not Toronto, and I never claim it is, but there's a correlation there. So if the Toronto Stock Exchange has dropped about 20% in value, we're probably going to see about a 20% drop in absorption of pre-construction. Well, what does that mean? It means that we're still going to have a great year in Brantford. We're still going to have a great year. We're just going to sell 20% less. It's not the end of the world. It gives everybody time to breathe, make and build the houses very well. I mean, I know we're supposed to say they built them very well always, but you know, sometimes there's hiccups and we have to go back. But the truth is that it gives us time to breathe on building. And I will tell you one thing that Empire's done extremely well on the construction side. And I know I'm the sales schlub at Empire, but I've held many hats with this company. But one of the things that Mark Tutton, the president of our low-rise division, brought to the table with construction is that when we have a trade in the house, we don't have another trade in the house. And it's also given a peace of mind to those trades during this time. So if the drywallers are in, you don't have the flooring guy in. Not that you ever would, but you know what I'm saying. If you have the plumbers in, you don't have the flooring guy upstairs working at the same time. So the trades know that they're working into a safe environment, and everything that the government wanted as far as ensuring the health and safety of the sites of an Empire site, we have gone overboard on. We have a health and safety inspector internally who is adamant about ensuring that all the workers, and not just the employees, the trades, anybody who visits the site, has no worry when they're stepping onto an Empire site. And I think that, again, and I'm not speaking about the industry in whole, but I would say that almost every site I have had the pleasure of visiting in the last 2 weeks, I can say the same thing too. So our industry in whole has really, really stepped up to the challenge. Even Mattamy, shutting down their operation for a couple of weeks so they could make sure that everything was fine when they came back. Like, these are brilliant, brilliant moves for long-term plays for these companies. Small builders may have had some challenges because, time is money and they have to get these houses up and whatnot. But even some of the small builders that I've had the pleasure of visiting have really, really stepped up. And I think that's just a testament to the Brantford Home Builders Association and sort of the vigilance to ensure that everybody is better off than other parts of the world with COVID. Rose, I don't know what else you want me to elaborate on.
I think you did really, really well. You touched on a lot of the questions that I had sort of pre-reflected on. So I'll encourage anybody on this call, if you have questions, down on the participants tab, go ahead, click the participants tab, and then select the raise hand option. It's a blue hand. If you do have any questions for Dan.
And I'll just say like low rise, high rise, Toronto, Brantford, I'm all of Ontario. We do have a large division in the US. So if you have any questions about the US, particularly Southern US, we are a very large developer in Texas and now in Georgia. So we know what's happening out there. I personally don't do the sales out there, but I'm constantly in contact with them. So if you have any questions, I'm happy on the construction side or on the sales side.
So we do have a couple hands raised here. So we have Ray Petro, you're up.
Oh, I unmuted myself. Hey Dan, just a question regarding the non-face-to-face transactions that you've been implementing more of. Do you anticipate in your business model anyway, or in the industry, either or, fully non in-person transaction?
Yeah. So that's a question I've been asked a lot. By the way, I'm a first-time listener, so thanks, Ray. I just want to say that we will eventually go back to in-person stuff. It's going to happen. There's no way I can see this translating as a permanent thing forever and ever and ever. I think that by spring of next year, if we do not have a second wave hit us to a point where it's tragic, I think we'll probably go back to a normalized way of doing sales. It'll be the new normal, though. The days, I think, of us having massive lineup, like I can only speak for Empire on this one, the days of massive lineups and staying outside we're probably going to switch all of that to a virtual experience. And then once that initial opening is over, we are probably going to be open by appointment and people come in. So you asked an interesting question. So as of today, all of my Empire sites are open by appointment where people can physically go into the appointment. However, you cannot walk up to the door, knock on the door, look in and say, oh, there's nobody in there. I want to come in. My staff has been instructed that they have to at least have a 24-hour window, because what we don't want is we don't want the perception of us just being open, because that doesn't make people feel more comfortable. So somebody comes, if you were to walk up to the Winfield office today, which again it is there, and knock on the door, unfortunately it's going to be not a great customer experience, because we're going to say, we would happy to make an appointment with you. Are you available tomorrow, or are you available Friday, or are you available Saturday? And they're going to look at it and say, but there's nobody here. There's nobody in the car park. And we're going to say, listen, we want to make sure that the office is ready for you, because we're going to be sanitizing and whatnot. But I think there is still a large part of the sector, especially first-time home buyers, who tactability is very important. They want to physically walk through a model home. They want to touch, for lack of a better word, a model home. And I think that that's going to be key. And there's people, listen, I'm going to say north of 50. And like, I am a type of person that would love to go into a sales office and actually see that site table. I know it sounds really silly, but I come from real estate before there were computers used in real estate. And we went to site tables and we talked to people. I don't think that it's going to run the same way, though. I think that there's going to be a massive change in staffing with regards to sites, because we're doing so much virtually. We have learned that we could have almost a centralized administrative section anywhere. Toronto, like a Toronto hub for the Toronto people, maybe somebody in Brantford to cover Brantford, Hamilton, and Kitchener-Waterloo, and have the administrators work out of a centralized hub, because we're going to do almost everything virtually as far as DocuSign, though. We have found the efficiency of not having paper. And it's not about cutting down trees or anything like that, because if I'm not mistaken, I think I cut down a few trees when I built a house. It's not about saving paper. It's about the efficiency of, I am signing deals at 7:30 in the morning and at 10 o'clock at night, because these people don't have to walk into a sales office. So they're signing the deals at their leisure, after work, before work. They're emailing me those deals, and I'm signing the deals and sending it right back. It's a totally different way of signing. I'm finding I'm doing less work during the traditional 9 to 5 and more work outside of the hours, but it's way more efficient than it's been before, where, you know, you'd have this opening on Saturday, you'd write 50 deals, and on Monday, I've got 6 administrators who work for me. They're pumping out 55, 60-page agreements on the photocopier. They're printing them out times 50 people. Then they're analyzing them. Then they're handing them to me. I'm signing them. They're then scanning them back in and emailing back to Brent. Like the amount of waste that we're saving now is incredible, but the efficiency, which to me is more important, is even better. Like, and the customer experience of they finished work. It's a long day. They got home at 6 o'clock, rushing to the sales office before it closes at 7. Now they sign the paper at home at 7:30. They send it to my staff member. My staff member looks at it, makes sure it's okay, sends it to me. We've never printed out anything. It's incredible. So I think there's going to be a combination but I think it's probably going to be, well, for the rest of this year, I'm going to say it's probably going to be 75 virtual, 25 in the office. Then it's going to go to something like 50-50. And then I think it's going to go 75-25 by fall of next year, where 25% of the people are never going to want to step foot into a sales office. I guarantee you there's no reason for an investor who's buying a house to step into a sales office. They're looking. So I think that's how we're going to see it happening. Hope that answers your question.
Thank you. I have Joshua with his hand up.
Good morning. Thank you, Dan, for being here.
Good morning.
So I've got 2 questions, if I may. The first one was, you mentioned Brantford being one of your flagship communities, and I was just wondering if you'd elaborate a little bit on that, in what makes Brantford, you know, maybe different than other communities that you're working in, or, you know, specific things that you're doing here versus doing in other communities.
So that's probably one of the easier questions. First of all, Brantford. Okay, so Empire did some project before Brantford in Dundas, Ontario, whatnot, but Brantford we've been there for 22 years. Phenomenal relationship with the city. Tons of end users buying property. So it's not a bunch of investors just buying up and trashing the properties. I'm now referring to our communities. The infrastructure that you have I'm sure if you live in Brantford, everybody hates the infrastructure of the city that they live in. I live in Midtown Toronto. I hate Toronto. But the truth is it's really not bad compared to Montreal and other cities. Brantford's got a great infrastructure, great shopping, fantastic schools. You kind of tick all the boxes, coupled with the fact that Brantford is such a great central hub. If you don't work in Brantford, but work in Hamilton, or you work in Niagara Falls, like these are easy places to get to. So when I was a young kid, when we used to talk about driving to outside of the city, when we talked about let's driving to Niagara Falls, that was like a weekend trip for my folks. It's like, I'm going to drive an hour and a half to Niagara Falls. And now, you know, you drive, you look at the falls, it's water running down, you drive back home, you have a meal. Brantford's got everything, you know, and it's established. I would say one of the key things about Brantford is you're buying into an established city. When we started with Avalon, with Caledonia, we were raw land, giant farm. There's no retail kind of in the area. You have to get in your car to do anything. Even in our community in Brantford, you can walk to convenience. There's convenience walking distance from our homes, which is critical. But if you get in your car and you drive anywhere in Brantford, within 10 minutes, you're in shopping, you're at a school, you've got everything there. So I don't know if that answers your question, other than the fact that we evolved in Brantford. We went, if you look at Brantford East, or Winfield East versus Winfield West, we're now in Winfield West. Winfield East, a lot of vinyl homes, a lot of very nice homes that were perfectly suited for, you know, mid 90s. Early 2000s. Now we've evolved to a different style, and we'll keep evolving to ensure that the community that we're building in Brantford isn't one giant looking house that's exactly the same. We've got bungalows, 2 stories, semis, townhouses. We've got everything in that. And obviously we're not the only ones. I mean, you've got my competitors in Brantford also see a huge added value. And by the way, Brantford gives me an added value. You know, I have to tell you, when you build in Brantford, you probably, you know, the name Brantford probably adds $10,000 to $15,000 just by having a Brantford name associated with it to some other cities in Ontario, like to Thorold, like a Thorold or whatever. There's a value add of the city name.
So I think you segued perfectly into what my second question was going to be. I want to talk about innovation. So since you've started in Brantford specifically, what are the biggest, in your opinion, the best decisions, changes that you've made, you know, regarding innovation?
Well, I'm going to say that innovation has 2 parts to it, but let me just say that when we first moved to Brantford, old school people that ironically were probably my age today, said, you know, Brantford is bungalows. Everything is bungalows, just bungalows. Don't even think about anything. It's a bedroom community. It's old people and maybe some, you know, young people that can't afford stuff and build small and build cheap and build cheerful. Well, that was completely the opposite way of thinking that we went into it. We looked at it as 2-story, young professionals, older professionals, mobility. So we took everything that a lot of the old guard had said would sell in Brantford and chucked it. Because it makes absolutely no sense if you think that Brantford is all old people who need bungalows. Look in the mirror. It's not true. And so one of the innovations, and it's such a simple innovation, was to understand what the true market is in Brantford. And also to understand who is Brantford. Brantford of 50 years ago is not Brantford of today. When you look on the street 50 years ago, you would have seen a lot of people that looked exactly the same. If you look on the streets today, you see the world in Brantford. You see every ethnicity, religion, all of that stuff. And that only makes a city better, in my opinion. I'm not one of these people that think the opposite. I think that multiculturalism makes cities better. And I think that Brantford over the last 25 years has changed drastically. I will toot my own horn and say that When I sort of came on board with Empire 15 years ago, I did a very large push with certain communities who didn't even think about Brantford. Once they realized what Brantford was, there was a large push of certain communities into certain ethnicities into Brantford because there's such a value add of your city. So it's really not an innovation. It's more of a changing of a mindset from who the buyer is and what the buyer wants to what we want to see Brantford grow as a city now and for the next 50 years from now. As far as technology and homes and that is concerned, I'm going to say that other than construction methodology changing and switching from 2x4s to 2x6s and OSB to plywood and stuff like that to make homes better insulated. For the longest time, Empire worked with Energy Star, so all of our homes were Energy Star. We're now working on some new things. We're about to launch a new I can't talk too much about it. A new discovery type of home. No, I can do general things that you're smiling. Do general things because we're looking at healthy homes and seeing how we can incorporate some healthy home techniques into our home building in the future, which could possibly be added to our future phases in Brantford, as they will be added to future phases in all of our communities in Southwest. So I guess the other big thing is the 50 and 60-foot lots are gone. They're the past. My 27 footers with a single car garage with a proper layout become affordable to first-time home buyers, affordable for people that aren't necessarily first-time home buyers but can't afford an expensive home but want a nice home. So lot sizes are shrinking because the way people live is different today than it was. It's not like it was when, in my parents' generation, which my mother's turning 90, so it's a much older generation. But where you needed that backyard that was 200 feet deep and 50 feet wide because I don't know, you like gardening, you like cutting grass. People aren't living the same way they used to live, and the volume of sales, like we sell between 150 and 250 houses a year in Brantford, show me that we're doing what the people want now. And I just think that the affordability of homes has a lot to do with the land, and those massive lots make homes moving in the future. And like Brantford, they're going to be over $1 million if you want like a 50-foot by 200-foot lot. And I know there's a market for that, but it's more of a custom home than a community home like we build. So I think that moving forward, you're going to see home sizes change. I think also you're going to see some new innovations in dual living, cohabitating, but dual living where it's not a basement apartment, but possibly on a 44 or a 50-foot lot, for those that do have them, maybe a main floor bedroom, living room, secondary kitchen, so that a parent can move into the house but not have to deal with stairs. And with a lot of what's happening with COVID and long-term care facilities, people may be nervous about moving their families into those facilities. And if this is, let's say, $100,000 more, that additional mortgage payment is far less than the fee of going into some of these long care facilities. And it's like that Gillette commercial. I liked it so much, I did it myself. In 2 weeks, my 90-year-old mother is moving into my house because she was scheduled to go into a long-term care facility on February 1st. And then at the last minute, she said, I want to wait another month. COVID hit. She's been paying since February, $7,000 a month. And we said, you know what? We're nervous. We move you in. You're in a lockdown. We move you in. You've got 4 kids, 11 grandkids, 2 great grandkids. You're not going to see them. You're going to be miserable. So I volunteered. There's 4 siblings in my family, and I volunteered to have my mother move in with me. Now, my problem is I got a lot of stairs. So I'm going to have to, or my wife or my kids who are older, we're going to have to walk her down the stairs and walk her up in the morning. Imagine having a main floor in-law suite. That is really in-law, not rental. I think that's going to be something that a lot of builders are going to have to think about from an innovation point on larger lots that can't sell because the end price is too much.
Thank you so much. That was awesome. Thank you.
That's...
Getting healthy.
Now's the time.
Yeah.
So have you done any? Have you done any showings in person, like of the model homes
No.
recently? Nothing. And how do you think you're going to transition into that? Like, what does it actually look like for your staff and for the consumer?
So gloves and masks will be available. I will not enforce gloves and masks on anybody. I won't. My staff are more than welcome to wear gloves and masks if they want. Again, I'm not going to force it on anybody. So the buyer knows that the staff is not going to be mandated to wear gloves and masks. Remember, we're not doing this right now. We're going to see how it works, and I can transition it to how my decor department works, because decor is sales. Decor is sales. I run the decor division of Empire and some other builders as well, which is the finishes. So people are going to come in. We're going to lock the door behind them, so they can't get it until they buy. No, I'm sorry. So that nobody else can get. So that nobody else can get. So that nobody else can get in. We're going to always maintain 6 feet apart. For now. As things change, we'll adapt, we'll be agile. I think the key takeaway word for anybody on this call is agile. You need to adapt to the moving market, knowing that some people will not adapt as quickly. When they move it from 6 feet to 2 feet, there's some people that are going to say, I still want to be 6 feet apart. And you have to conform to that methodology. Do we have lines on the ground? Not in a sales office. I don't. But common sense dictates how far 6 feet is. If I can't punch you, you're at least 6 feet away. Like, so we're going to go with a 6 foot separation. So when a person is on one side of the site table, the topo table, the agent is supposed to be on the other side of the table. If they want to physically write a deal, we are going to beg them not to. We're going to beg them if we can do it through DocuSign. Even if I've got my phone here and you're on the other side of the table, I can still send it to you. You can click the button on your own phone and send it back to me. If you insist on paperwork, we have a methodology which we use in decor, which is the paperwork is hand delivered in an envelope, in a folder, where one side will say buyer and one side will say staff. And the reason is that's how you're holding the file. The papers are put into the file, and the papers, when they're handed to the client, have the signing side towards them. So they don't have to shuffle paper. When the buyer hands it back, they're holding their side of the folder and handing it back to us. I know this is like, it sounds so micro what we're doing, but we're doing it for a reason. It's for confidence of the buyers and my staff that they're not even touching paper. Once that file comes back to us, we're going to put it aside for 24 hours. There is a rule of thumb. I'm not a doctor. I mean, I am Jewish, so I automatically get credit. But what we're going to do is the rule of thumb is if you let it sit for 24 hours, it's supposed to go away ish. Whether it does or doesn't, I'm not sure. We're going to put the file away for 24 hours, and then the next day when they come in, they'll exercise whatever they have to do with the file. Chances are, though, the difference is instead of it doing that whole methodology, like I mentioned before, printing this, they're probably just going to DocuSign it to me. I'm going to send it back to them. So at least we can save some photocopying between us and some paper holding in between us. At decor, as an example, we have plexiglass shields. We're doing everything, but my decor consultants all wear gloves and all have masks because they're interacting with several people. But even in my decor department, luckily Empire's decor department is 13,500 square feet. We're only allowing 4 people in at a time. There are walkways which we've created. We've created lines on the ground. We have a full-time cleaner in the decor. So every time a buyer picks up a sample, a cleaner comes and disinfects the sample. Every single time. We have a cleaner there from 10 in the morning till 4. Sole job, disinfect anything that's touched as it's touched. Again, we're going to do that for the next 2 weeks. We're going to see how it goes, and we're going to see what the government says. We may then shift it down to 3 times a week, and then, we may go back. But we're doing everything and we can to make the experience. When somebody uses the washroom, I know this is really getting into the weeds here. We have 2 bathrooms in our offices, and a lot of times, one is going to be purely staff. And the staff, they know that they have the disinfectant when they use the washroom. They're to disinfect it, and the buyer side, we are kind of, when they need to go to the washroom, we're going to say, well, when you leave, can you do these things, out of courtesy? And none of them, we're not asking you to, take a toilet duck and swish it. We're just asking you to spray with the disinfectant spray and do a quick wipe down.
Awesome. I think you touched on everything as far as the future developments out here in Brantford. Is there anything that we didn't touch on that you were thinking about adding? I have an invested interest because I do live in Winfield on the east side, not the new one.
Did you buy from me or did you buy resale?
Resale and not
So the problems aren't mine. They were the previous buyers.
Yeah, yes. But you know what? When I did move out here, it was promoted as country living in the city because the lot sizes were so big and you weren't smushed up beside your neighbor. And that's actually why we bought out here. So it was interesting for me to hear your opinion on what the buyers are looking
We actually don't use smushed in our marketing.
Oh, is smush not a regular?
Buy from us to be smushed.
I did go look to build new in Winfield West, and they said that they would not offer us that extra. We offered to pay more for the wider lot with a smaller house, and they would not even do it. So we stayed put where we were. So as far as what we can expect of the next phase, anything you haven't touched on, like hints?
I would just no. Just a general thing is as members of the Home Builders Association, it's critical you stay positive in these times. Everybody jumps on the negative bandwagon. The sky is falling, the sky is falling, the sky is falling. Then when the sky falls, the people say, "Told you so." It's critical that you be the positive and focus on the positive. When somebody goes into a negative stream, those people, they want to be negative, and no matter what you say, they're not going to change their attitude. So it's sometimes silence is sometimes golden instead of arguing, because the loudest voice often gets heard the most, and the loudest voice is the one who's always negative. It's very few people that shout, "I had the greatest experience." They go, "I had the worst experience," and everybody wants to listen. So I sometimes say, when you're dealing with some negativity surrounding our industry and the business, sometimes it's better just to be quiet. Point out something that's very positive about it. I think that's what's going to get us through this quicker, is just having a good attitude. I saw was a Winners today. I saw a picture of Winners today. I know, like 300 people in line at Winners to get in, because today's the first day that you can now go into Winners, I guess. And I'm sitting to myself and I'm going, oh my God, these are people that want to get out, that are positive about getting out and whatnot. There's a lot of positive people out there that do see the light at the end of the tunnel. Unfortunately, they're not the ones that are the loudest in the room. And that's my end is, and buy Empire.
Final thoughts by Dan Flomen. Thank you.
Just, promote the industry. Promote the positivity of the industry. You have a great organization, and that's key. Like, we as an organization, Brantford Home Builders Association, along with all the other Home Builders Association, probably stepped up better than most organizations did to ensure that the recovery will be faster than some others. We are going to recover light years ahead of the restaurant industry. Light years ahead of some elective surgery industries out there. We are going to recover much faster, because the majority of us did everything that we were supposed to do, and we didn't break the rules. You didn't hear Ford bashing a builder for having terrible sites. Corrections, yes, but where you heard him bash Busateri's down the street from me for doing $29 Lysol cans. It says a lot about our industry in total, and everybody on this call should, pat yourselves on the back for being a part of a really great industry.
Thank you so much.
I guess that wasn't a half an hour.
Yeah. we welcome it. If you're going, we're happy to have you.
Okay.
So seeing no other questions, last call. I know it's kind of been over that half an hour mark already, but anyway, we're all good. Dan, thank you so much for coming out.
Thank you, everybody.
It was a pleasure listening to your thoughts and your processes, and it's been extremely informative. So thank you so much, and thank you so much to everybody who tuned in. And if you have any questions, reach out to Felicia.
Yeah, don't reach out to me.
Don't reach out to me or Dan. Reach out to Felicia and she'll get answers. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye. Have a good day.